Some accounts simply cannot be run well from a browser, no matter how good your antidetect profile is. The app was built to live on a phone, and it treats a desktop login as a little suspicious from the very first tap. That is the gap a cloud phone fills. But they are also the most expensive layer in the whole stack, and plenty of people buy them when a browser profile would have done the job for a fraction of the cost. This is what a cloud phone actually is, what it adds that a browser cannot, and how to tell when an account genuinely needs one. What a cloud phone actually is. A cloud phone is a real or virtual Android device that you control remotely over the internet. Instead of a phone in your hand, it is a device sitting in a rack somewhere, and you see its screen and tap its buttons from your computer. To the apps running on it, it is just a phone being used normally. To you, it is one more device in a fleet you can reach from anywhere. The best versions of this are genuine physical handsets, real phones wired up for remote control, because a real device carries signals that are very hard to fake convincingly. Why some apps demand a phone? A lot of platforms have quietly pushed their real functionality into the mobile app and left the website as a thin shell. Some features only exist in the app, some actions can only be taken there, and some apps refuse to behave properly or at all in a desktop browser. On top of that, these apps read a pile of phone-shaped signals the browser never has to produce: sensor data, an app environment, a device identity baked into the hardware. An account that is supposed to be an active mobile user but only ever appears through a desktop browser is telling an inconsistent story, and the app notices the device layer on mobile. On a phone, the device fingerprint is deeper than anything a browser exposes. A real handset has motion sensors, a light sensor, a hardware-level device identity, a specific build of the operating system, an install history of other apps, a battery that actually drains. It lives in an environment the app can inspect in ways a web page simply cannot be asked. A browser profile can imitate a lot of things, but it cannot conjure a believable phone out of nothing when the app goes looking for the real mobile signals. That is the core of what a cloud phone adds: a genuine mobile device layer. Real handset versus emulator. This is where the money question lives. You can run an emulator, software pretending to be a phone, on ordinary computer hardware, and it is cheap. The trouble is that apps have gotten good at spotting emulators. The sensors are wrong or absent. The hardware identity looks synthetic. The performance signature does not match a real phone, and there are known tells that give the emulation away. A genuine physical handset behind the cloud phone service passes the checks and emulator fails because it is not pretending to be a phone. It is a phone for sensitive accounts. That difference is the whole reason to pay. Pairing with a mobile proxy. A cloud phone is only half the identity, same as an antidetect profile. Each phone still needs its own network story, and for mobile accounts, that means its own mobile carrier connection. Ideally, a real SIM on a real carrier so the address matches the device. A real handset on a real mobile network running one account is about as believable as it gets, because that is exactly what an ordinary user is. The phone handles the device layer, the mobile connection handles the network layer, and together they describe a genuine mobile person rather than a machine in a rack. Bom pansok. When the platform is app-only or app-first, and a browser cannot run the account properly, when the account is high-trust and expensive to lose, and every extra bit of believability matters, when the sign-up or recovery flow demands a real phone and a real number in a way a browser cannot satisfy. In those cases, the cloud phone is not a luxury. It is the only setup that tells a consistent story. These are the accounts where trying to save money with a browser profile ends up costing more in dead accounts than the phones would have. When you do not need one, and here is the part sellers skip. Most accounts do not need a cloud phone. Anything that runs perfectly well in a browser is cheaper and simpler to keep there, on a good antidetect profile and a matched proxy. Buying phones for accounts that a desktop profile would have handled fine is just burning money and adding complexity. The right question is never can a cloud phone help. It is, does this specific account actually require the mobile device layer, or am I paying for signals nobody is checking? Spend the phone budget where the platform genuinely forces it. Isolation is still the rule. Everything from the browser world carries over. One phone, one identity. A cloud phone running 5 accounts is the same mistake as one browser profile running 5 logins. It hands the platform a clean device match. Each phone should be its own account's device its own number, its own connection, sharing nothing with the others. The fact that the device is now a phone in a rack instead of a profile on your laptop does not change the core rule. Isolation is what you are buying, and stacking accounts on one phone throws it away. Persistence and warm-up. One real advantage of a phone is persistence. The account stays logged in on a stable device that stays put, instead of living in a fragile browser session that a cleared cache can end. That stability itself reads as normal, because real people stay logged into their phones for months. But a fresh phone with a fresh number still starts from zero trust, exactly like a new browser profile. It has to be warmed, used gently, ramped gradually. A brand new device and number that immediately runs hard is still a new stranger doing suspicious things, phone or not. Managing a fleet without looking like a farm. Once you have many phones, the challenge shifts to running them so they do not look like what they are. A rack of devices under one hand. That means staggering their activity instead of all of them acting in lockstep, keeping each one on its own connection, and not having a dozen devices hit the same milestone in the same minute. A fleet betrays itself through synchronization, everything moving together on a schedule no real crowd of independent people would ever match. The tooling is there to control many phones, but the discipline is making them behave like unrelated individuals. A SIM and number question. Verification is where cloud phones earn their keep, and it hinges on the number. A real SIM on a real carrier gives the account a phone number that behaves like an ordinary person's, receives codes reliably, and ages into trust the way a genuine line does. Cheap disposable or virtual numbers are a different story. Many are already recycled, already burned, or flagged as a kind of number used for throwaway signups. The device can be perfect, but if the number attached to it is a known burner, the account starts suspicious. Treating the number as carefully as the device is part of doing this right. Latency and control. Running a phone remotely is not the same as holding it. There is lag between your tap and the device responding, and that shapes what you can comfortably do and how natural your interaction looks. A good service keeps the latency low enough to work smoothly. A poor one makes everything feel like wading through mud, which also makes it harder to behave like a relaxed human being on the other end. Before committing a fleet to a provider, test how the control actually feels, because you will be living inside that lag every day, and so, in a sense, will the accounts. Phones need upkeep. A rack of phones is not set and forget. Apps update, and an outdated app can itself be a mild signal or simply stop working. The operating system needs the occasional attention. Devices can drift, get stuck, or drop their connection and need a nudge. A fleet of real handsets is closer to a small server room than a single gadget, and it carries real maintenance overhead. This is part of the true cost of the mobile layer, and it is another reason not to reach for cloud phones unless the account genuinely needs them. More devices means more upkeep, always. The cost math worked out. Put concrete numbers on it before buying. A browser profile and a shared slice of a good proxy is cheap enough to run many accounts without thinking hard about it. A real handset plus its own SIM plus the service to control it is an order of magnitude more per account, every month, ongoing. So the phone only makes sense when the account it protects is worth clearly more than that recurring cost, or when the platform simply refuses to work any other way. Run that comparison per account, not as a blanket policy, and the answer is usually a small number of accounts on phones and the rest on profiles. The verification angle and the honest limit, one clean benefit worth naming. A real number on a real device answers a step-up verification cleanly. When a platform sends a code or asks the account to prove it is a real phone user, an account that genuinely is one passes without drama. That alone saves accounts that a browser-only setup would lose at the first challenge, but keep the honest limit in front of you. The phone is one layer. It does not license aggressive behavior. It does not fix a shared payment method. And it does not make an account immortal. It makes the device and network story true. The rest is still on you. A real phone running a reckless account still gets caught because behavior lives on top of the device, not underneath it. The phone answers the question, is this a genuine mobile user? And it answers it well. It does not answer the question, is this account acting like a normal person? And that one is always yours to get right. I run real handsets myself, actual phones on real Singapore carrier SIMs. One account per device, warmed and staggered because I wanted the mobile layer to be genuine rather than an emulator hoping not to get checked. Multi-account ops. Chrome has the full written breakdown of cloud phones versus browser profiles. When each is worth it, and honest reviews of the services and handsets I actually use, no affiliate guesswork. If you are trying to decide whether an account really needs a phone, or whether a good browser profile would have done the job for a tenth of the cost, that is the place to start, with the actual numbers laid out instead of a sales pitch. Subscribe for more honest, tested multi-account ops. Next time, the anatomy of a bandwave. Why accounts die in batches rather than one at a time, and what the ones that survived a wave quietly had in common.